So I think science is critically important, and I can also be very critical of science as well, is that scientists are often in an ivory tower producing books for libraries, not being connected enough to the real issues and not producing the right formats for what people need at the right time. So even within the program I lead, there's a very strong pressure on not measuring success of science by papers and publications, but by outcomes in society. And so, I think science has got a crucial role, but science also has to transform itself to actually meet stakeholders like negotiators.
Well, I think the role of science is critical, it's very important. I mean, we need to find evidence to direct policies. But at the same time, the gap between science and politics is still too broad. So we need to work on science, but at the same time find possible ways of interaction. Peer-to-peer learning methods could help a lot, for example. And we need also to take that knowledge to the people. So educating not just the leaders, but also those that are the final consumers of goods. That's super important.
Around the G20, there is this very interesting development, which is that the governments of the G20 have decided to invite the top think tanks, top scientific and analytical institutions in those countries to accompany the process and to be critical of the process, to be critical of the governments themselves. So I think, again, this is a very interesting feature of the G20, which doesn't really exist in the same way in other governance mechanisms. It's also important to contextualize the role of good science and these actors, particularly those that have a reputation and have a standing because they've been working with academia and they've been working in ways in which their methods guarantee that the information and analysis they produce is solidly developed and sound in a context, as I was saying, of this communications revolution, where we're talking about a post-factual world in which people choose what to believe in and what communications selectively, what type of communications information selectively they follow. So again, in that kind of world, it is very important to bring together a group of these solid institutions to provide the backup and the support to policymakers in the G20.
I would say science, by and large, was in the past enormously successful, because without science, there would be no climate policy agenda. Science was successful to explain humankind that human beings are increasing global mean temperature. Basically, we are in a position to explain the public in a quite effective way what are the impacts of climate change on nature, on society, biophysical systems. The major problem is, and this is the fundamental thing, how can we really facilitate international cooperation? One thing should be very clear. Without international cooperation, there is no effective climate policy. So the Paris Agreement has basically two important focal points: limiting the increase of global mean temperature below 2 degrees. So this can be translated in a global carbon budget. And this basically shows and indicates very, very clearly all the countries have to cooperate. So every country has to deliver and has to bring, so to say, their contribution to provide the public good. But how to design international cooperation, that's a very, very complicated task. So in that sense, how this process should be designed, so what are the appropriate incentive structures, what kind of tools are the most effective ones? So this is something which social science has to deliver and hasn't delivered so far. So, and here we need much more effort, but we need also much more practical recommendations in order to support, in particular, the national policies.